In the ancient days of the web, browsers were preventing making cross-origin requests. That means if you are at domain.com, you cannot make a request to another domain.com. This was called the same origin policy. However, for the modern web, browsers needed to adapt and become more flexible. They gave the server the power to decide whether or not it should accept a request. They called this new policy Cross-Origin Resource Sharing, or CORS. But in order not to expose old servers that aren't CORS aware yet, they decided to split the requests into two types: simple requests and pre-flighted requests. Simple requests are those requests that were already possible before CORS. These are GET, HEAD, and POST requests that meet some conditions. Pre-flighted requests are those requests that older servers weren't aware of. For example, put, delete, and patch requests, also requests with content type equals application JSON, and any request that has an authorization header. Before the browser makes any of these requests, it sends an options request first, or a pre-flight request. The server should respond to this request with some CORS headers. Responding with these headers would indicate that this server is CORS aware, and basically that server knows what to do and we should trust it. If not, the browser would not send the original request. So only if the pre-flight requests came back with those specific CORS headers and the conditions in these headers were met, the browser wouldn't send the actual request. In Laravel 7, CORS is configured for you by default. You can change the configurations in your CORS.php configuration file. For example, you can change the paths that accept cross-origin requests. You can change the allowed methods. You can also change the allowed origins or the allowed origin patterns. Here, for example, we are allowing all origins or all requests coming from an origin that ends with .web and .test. This is for local testing. You can also configure the allowed headers as well as the exposed headers. The exposed headers are those headers that you would allow the browser to read. You can also configure the maximum age of the pre-flight request. So for example, instead of having the browser send this pre-flight request with each request or before each request, you can configure that each pre-flight request can be cached for 60 seconds before the browser have to send it back again. You can also configure whether or not browsers should attach cookies to cross-origin requests coming to your server. To demonstrate how a cross-origin request works, here we are at horizon test.web and we are making a request to Laravel test.web. This is a post request that contains some custom headers. If we take a look at the network tab, we can see the options request or the pre-flight request that was sent before the actual request was sent. If we go ahead and remove one of the accepted headers or the allowed headers and try to make this request again, the request is going to fail. The pre-flight request, when it was sent to the server responded with the allowed headers, and one of the headers included in the request wasn't allowed, which is our custom header. And that's one example of how cross-origin requests works and how you can configure these.